Hello everyone, in today's video we're going to be talking about the new Microsoft CEO Asha, talking about the different types of changes she's going to be doing over the next couple of weeks. Discord Nitro now comes with Xbox Game Pass as well, along with that, and Twitch is changing the bits legal terms basically on their website and making sure people understand how to properly use bits. That is what we're going to be talking about today. Thank you everyone for watching today's video. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I really appreciate it if you do. Comment down below what you guys would like to see next video as well. We do these types of videos on Mondays. We also do video essays on Fridays, so please come to the channel during those times. So starting with the fact that Asha Sharman told CNBC that there's going to be a bunch of change-ups throughout the leadership in Xbox, which makes sense because, unfortunately, even though I personally liked Phil Spencer and the leadership around him at the time, it is obvious that it didn't work because Xbox is definitely on the downhill. It's been losing 30% market share in terms of console sales, basically quarterly at this point. It feels like every time we see it, they're losing sales in basically every market except for Game Pass, which is obviously not a winning strategy. So it makes sense that they're changing a lot of things. A bunch of the people that are now in leadership positions were part of the core AI engineering group, and which kind of makes sense because that is Asha's previous working background with the AI stuff, with the caveat of the fact that it's not that they're wanting more AI in Xbox, is that they want these people to lead Xbox, which makes sense in a lot of ways because unfortunately, whether you like it or not, the AI products in a lot of places are doing well in terms of growth and securing funding and stuff like that. You can argue, like, are they actually making money? Yeah, you can argue that they're not actually making money, but all that we know for sure is that they are growing in a lot of ways, and they were able to secure a lot of funding, and they're able to lead their teams to a success in a way. And right now, Xbox leadership right now isn't doing that. So being replaced, four of the main roles have been replaced in a lot of ways, like Xbox lead designer and similar positions like that. But some of the more specific ones, I think, is going to be the big ones is one, the lead designer, and the Xbox user experience and gaming development and publishing platforms is going to be interesting to see the new person dealing with that because unfortunately Xbox doesn't have the best reputation right now. It has a very shaky reputation with third-party developers because people weren't really sure if Xbox was even going to be in the console development and console manufacturing that much longer, but with the new leadership, they are very firmly in Xbox. They're staying with Xbox with all the things they were doing. And the thing with all of that is that it's going to be interesting to see where Microsoft or Xbox specifically, because they did rename themselves to Xbox instead of Microsoft Gaming, to see where Asha keeps going with all this stuff. Because she's saying all the right things, but I think the big time play is when the new Xbox come out, Project Helix, when that eventually comes out, or if it gets delayed. Because personally, I think it should be delayed because of all the crazy prices that everything is happening with shortages of RAM prices and computer parts and everything like that. Because there's just too much stuff that for a lot of people to deal with nowadays, and also have like consoles be almost $1,000. Like, while I love video games and I love the gaming industry and all that type of stuff, this is an industry that isn't necessary. Like a lot of people, this is a hobby or it's something they do in their free time. And not a lot of people are willing to spend $1,000 on a hobby. Now, of course, you got people that will do that anyway. And gaming obviously is big enough that people expect some cost, but $1,000 on something that isn't guaranteed, especially when you're Xbox and you've been proven to not be doing well, is another problem. And ways I hope that they are cutting down on cost is another announcement that she made on Twitter, on her Twitter account. And that is that Xbox is moving away from Copilot. It is no longer being developed on the mobile devices that they use and the console development on Copilot, which makes sense because Copilot on Xbox basically made zero sense. Because the way they were designing it was basically it was supposed to be like a chat GPT style thing where you can ask for it for advice in games and stuff like that, or it gives you advice if you're having trouble in a game. And honestly, that makes zero sense because things like that already exist. Why do you need to make that for Xbox? And honestly, it'd probably be so much better in other ways like with a better dashboard. Like there are ways to use AI, I'm sure, to make Xbox better, but Copilot doesn't need to be on Xbox. Like having a better AI algorithm to understand what the person likes to play so you can tell them sales, or like giving people sales on certain game genres because they're known to play these types of games. Stuff like that I feel like is a much better user experience rather than having Copilot say, "Hey, you suck, get good," basically. And I feel like that's a really good way to move on from Copilot, and hopefully they can actually use some useful AI stuff in Xbox. Because I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm an AI hater when it comes to a lot of things, but when it comes to AI specifically, the problem is AI is a blanket term nowadays. What I don't like is the generative AI stuff, but there's a lot of good things in AI that you could take out of it. And like, I mean, algorithms exist basically purely because of AI. So, and formulas and stuff like that. So there's tons of stuff you can do with it that could be useful, and bring all these people in the AI core AI engineering group from like GitHub and OpenAI from a lot of these companies makes sense as long as they understand that this is Xbox and not an AI company. Sure, Microsoft is being pretty big when it comes to AI, but we need to bring people back to Xbox and having fun things to do with AI. Like, hey, this personalizes your Xbox experience by giving you personal sales for games that you might like, or something in that way. I feel like it would be much better because Xbox needs to start kicking down the door for actual gaming. And luckily, Asha has been doing a lot of good things, and I hope the good things keep coming because, I want competition back between the consoles. And while I don't think anyone's really catching up to Nintendo because Nintendo is so far ahead again, at least fight for second place, which in the past couple years wasn't possible because Xbox was so far in third place when it comes to consoles that it was basically impossible. So I hope that they try to gain back that second place potential. And with that, joining like the more second place potential is them joining forces with Discord, because now when you get Discord Nitro, you also get access to a version of Xbox Game Pass. Now, I don't think it is the full version of Xbox Game Pass. It is one of the tiers of Xbox Game Pass, because they tell you in their own blog post that Nitro members can get access to the starter edition of Xbox Game Pass, including a library of 50 plus PC and console games. So this is the lowest tier of Xbox Game Pass, which, I mean, when I say that, there is still tons and tons of things in the starter edition of Game Pass, and I'm going to sound like a shill right now, but there's so many games. Like they said themselves, 50 plus games on starter edition along with all the Discord Nitro stuff. So when people already own Discord Nitro but potentially not Game Pass, this is pretty big for those people, because in order to play Xbox Game Pass, you have to download the Xbox app, which is a barrier of entry, but also another thing of where, there's a potential where someone who wouldn't normally download it. I mean, to be fair, I have Xbox Game Pass, I have access to it, and the only reason that I even have the Xbox app is because of Game Pass. If I didn't have it, I would have never downloaded it ever, basically, which says something, like getting more people on the app itself means there's more potential. And this is an interesting and good way to do it, because also Discord is used by a lot of gamers. Like Discord became the gamer's choice when it comes to these social apps, basically, especially when Skype died. And TeamSpeak and like Mumble and stuff like that have never been super popular. While TeamSpeak definitely had their moments, it's definitely Discord definitely took over the reins. So it is a big deal to actually be integrated within Discord Nitro itself. And even for existing Nitro people, you already have access to that. You just need to download and link your account probably. So that's pretty big, I think, for Xbox and Discord, to be fair. There are people that might now think about getting Discord Nitro because it also has Game Pass, because they didn't increase the price, which is, I think, the biggest thing for me is like it doesn't seem like the price is increased as well for now, at least. Like potentially maybe they will increase the price, but it does seem like for now it's the same price, which is kind of insane. And lastly, let's talk about the new guidelines that Twitch had put out on the Twitch legal page for bits, because I know a lot of people got a little concerned about this, but for the most part, it makes sense. And they're kind of already doing this as well, but it's the first time they've updated these guidelines for a very long time. So basically, they gave out a couple points, and I'm going to say those points out loud. So the first point: bits is not a currency or money instrument. Bits are not may not be used or exchanged for functionality or experiences outside of Twitch or for goods or services having monetary value. So the first one makes sense. Bits is not a currency. That's not a cryptocurrency. It's not a digital currency. It's nothing like that. Twitch is nothing, or sorry, Bits is nothing like that because Twitch isn't a bank. Bits are not a real value money currency. It is just a Twitch digital content thing, which makes sense because legally Twitch cannot start dealing in currencies because that would be a huge legal problem in a lot of ways. The second stuff basically is you cannot use bits to buy things on Twitch. Like if you are doing a let's say a subathon goal or a stream on Twitch, you cannot say if you give me 1,000 bits, you get a t-shirt. You cannot do that basically. You can do stuff for content, be like, hey, if you give me 1,000 bits, I'll rip this t-shirt. Or if you give me 1,000 bits, you play a funny sound on stream. If you do give some bits, they do a funny voice for like 10 minutes. That stuff is totally fine. If it's for content and the stuff you're doing for content or for entertainment, that's fine. That's not something you can inherently have monetary value to. But like I said before, getting a t-shirt for using bits is not allowed because, that is turning it into a real world currency. Or requesting certain songs, specifically the streamer is doing that. So like you can donate bits and say, hey, can you play this song? On a whim, that's totally fine. But if you have a specific service on your stream saying if you give 1,000 bits, you can request any song, unfortunately, that is not allowed because that is something different. Or a pre-recorded song, I should say, as well, because they also specifically, like, if you say, hey, play 1,000 bits and I'll make a song out of it, that's not necessarily the same thing because it's for the content. It's for the thing that they are doing that's for the stream is a big thing. And like also like, they also give offers of or examples of like dinner dates or access to VODs, cooking lessons, all that type of stuff. And I do think it makes sense because, they have to make sure. I'm surprised, honestly, this stuff wasn't super upfront to begin with, but it's also because I think they started like I know the old program of like watching ads for bits that kills this basically because bits cannot be you can't use bit if it's not a currency. If you can't do things for content or like for services like that, then obviously ads for bits is dead. To be fair, ads for bits has been dead for a very long time, but this is officially killing it because there's no way the ads for bits service would be acceptable under these new terms, these updated terms. So it makes sense. And overall, I feel like that it's a good thing that they did this. Once again, not surprised it wasn't already kind of like this. And I'm glad that even on their legal page, it's very specific on what is good and what is bad. And also very funny that they have a thing of using bits as a bet, wager, or soliciting or accepting bits for a bet or wager. Because, prediction markets are really huge right now. Also, if anyone was doing that, that's so scummy in so many ways. Like, I can see some of this stuff that I could kind of understand because, like, saying, doing physical goods like a hoodie or a keychain and stuff like that for bits, I can kind of understand some people, streamers doing that, and I don't necessarily disagree with that. But obviously, in Twitch's side, you can see why that would be a bad thing because they need to make sure that bits are not equivalent to money. Because if it is, then there's a whole big legal thing and there's a lot of stuff that has to happen for that to be okay. Because it is not a virtual currency. It is a digital content, which is what they say very specifically. Bits are digital content that may only be obtained and consumed on Twitch, which makes sense because they're not trying to be a virtual currency. So it kind of makes sense for them to finally push for this because they're kind of in the in-betweens before, it feels like. Because even when you look at the older ones, they were kind of in between. There was some definitely some weird things that maybe you could argue that it's you can use this stuff outside of Twitch, but no, they're like, no, this is not currency. This is digital content that you can only be used on Twitch, which makes sense. And I'm glad that they're finally pushing for that. Thank you everyone for watching today's video. I really appreciate it. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I do these news style videos on Mondays. I also do video essay style videos on Fridays. So please come over here. Comment down below what you guys like to hear me talk about next in any of the news sections, or what you guys think about the new Xbox's direction with the Discord Nitro stuff as well. And obviously the Twitch bits, even if we're not currently on Twitch, of course. If you'd like to support me super directly, please go to my Patreon at patreon.com/technojelly. You join all of these nice people in the credits, as well as a once a month live stream that we do. That voting poll will be going up soon on the Patreon. If you want to support super directly, I have a coupon code technojelly on poggers.shop linked in the description. You get 10% off any of their hydration, energy drink, and sleep aid mixes, as well as their shaker cups. Once again, 10% off using code technojelly in the description. Poggers.shop. I have a Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, and Threads, all at the Technojelly. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Click or tap my face or above me for other videos on this channel, and I'll see you in those videos. Goodbye, everyone.